It's Talkin Science's 201st edition. That means we have to look back at the last 4 years of the show. Plus, Crew Dragon resupplies the space station for the 28th time. The reasons behind JPL's Psyche mission delay have been addressed. And there's a communication hiccup with Ingenuity on Mars.
This is Trekzone's Talkin Science,
where you get the science and space headlines now. Let's first begin with a bit of self-indulgence. Last week was the 200th Talkin Science edition, not counting Talkin Science interviews, which have tallied 53. Everything is now becoming Talkin Science in my little black book, so expect to see the 500th episode a lot quicker. Right now though, let's take a trip down memory lane. What began on the 2nd of April 2019 quickly grew into a weekly deep dive into the stories making headlines in the world of science and space with Dr. Brad Tucker. In the first month of going to air, we got to see the black hole at the centre of our Milky Way galaxy for the first time. We learned about tiny black holes being discovered. We were there for the Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite when they discovered a Tatooine and the 2020 Black Summer bushfires in Australia. The Australian Space Agency officially formed too, and I'm still working on a sit-down with the team. At the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, we joined Dr. Brad in learning about his Lessons from Home series and celebrated Hubble's birthday. Tom Cruise's plans to film on the International Space Station were also in our news. Fast radio bursts, Starlink, our Aussie Space Month in July 2020 gave us a tour of what we're achieving and still achieving now. We were live as Hayabusa 2 returned to Earth in South Australia. The United States Space Force. We beamed over to Gloucestershire when a meteorite was found crashed into a driveway. We've covered the growing space junk problem and dived into Australian space startups with Gilmore Space, Hypersonics, and even attending Southern Launch's attempts last year. We've been there for Crew Dragon, Virgin Galactic, Starliner, Blue Origin, even when Shatner went to space. We also confirmed that it wasn't aliens trying to hail us from Proxima Centauri. Then there was the time Arecibo was critically damaged, but still continued to provide new insights. And James Webb launched on Christmas Day 2021. We were live for Equatorial Launch Australia's sounding rocket launches, the first time NASA had launched from Australia this century. Artemis 1's success was also a highlight on Talkin Science. And that brings us to this year. Orion Vehicle Manager Frank Lim beamed in to kickstart our 2023 season. Asteroid samples were analysed, the Chinese spy balloon. Not only did we head to the World Science Festival to chat with panel members, but we got interview pieces with the Artemis 2 crew. Brought you live coverage of the Ningaloo total solar eclipse just after that massive Starship incident. Then we beamed in to the 15th Australian Space Forum. What began on the 2nd of... We don't need to see it again because that is the last 4 years of Talkin Science, which brings us to here. Phew. Tell you what, it's been an absolute epic ride. 10 years of podcasting, 4 years of Talkin Science. Looking forward to the next 4, the next decade, however long I'll keep this up. Well, the news doesn't stop, so neither will I. The 28th commercial resupply service is on its way to the International Space Station and in fact docked overnight. Not only is there a pair of International Space Station rollout solar arrays, or IROSs, but a swath of new scientific equipment as well on board that Dragon capsule, including an instrument to help ESA study thunderstorm activity from a unique vantage point. There's also the Plant Habitat 03 experiment, which will assess whether plants grown in space can transfer their adaptations to environmental stresses to their next generation. This is really cool. A whole bunch of seeds were cultivated on the station, brought home, and are now going back. Now, Mission 26 for the station's NanoRacks CubeSat deployer is on board as well. It includes Educational Space Science and Engineering CubeSat Experiment Mission, or ESSENCE, sponsored by the International Space Station National Laboratory and developed by universities in Canada and Australia. It carries a wide-angle camera to monitor thawing of ice and permafrost in the Canadian Arctic, which could provide a better understanding of the effects on Earth's climate and support better local infrastructure planning. Well, delayed from the original August 2022 window, JPL's Psyche mission to the asteroid of the same name is on track, according to an independent review board. In its November 2022 report, that board made extensive recommendations to address both project and JPL institutional issues that contributed to the launch delay. After thorough follow-up reviews with the Psyche project, JPL and Caltech, the board's just-released report finds the actions taken since November exceeded expectations. Led by retired aerospace executive A. Thomas Young, the Psyche Independent Review Board concluded in its initial report that while JPL workforce issues related to the COVID-19 pandemic contributed to the launch delay, additional factors ranging from staffing to communication and even management oversight all contributed as well. In response to the review board's recommendations, JPL moved to directly address the concerns, as well as the laboratory as an institution. The Psyche mission added experienced team members, reorganised a large part of its workforce, and adopted comprehensive metrics to monitor progress toward launch and operational readiness. The report also noted improvements to senior management oversight of the mission, which is very, very cool. Looking forward to this one coming up very, very soon. Well, 7 years after the first detection of gravitational waves at the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, the fourth observation run has begun. With a growing list of 100 candidates now catalogued, it's hoped that this fourth dataset will provide even more detections of these ripples in the fabric of space-time. Observation Run 4 is aided by upgraded detectors which could make the identifying of gravitational waves an almost daily occurrence. All of this continues to support Einstein's theory of general relativity, which states that space and time are a fabric, with every object leaving a dent in that fabric, which we perceive as gravity. Then, when something disturbs those objects, say two black holes colliding, ripples across the fabric of space and time are sent flying. Well, for 6 days in April, Ingenuity's mission control sat helpless as their little helicopter failed to respond to their calls. Initially, this wasn't a cause for concern, with winter settling in on the floor of Jezero crater. Since January, the chopper was drifting in and out of nighttime survival mode. However, when coupled with a communications shadow with its partner, the Perseverance rover, Mission Control began to experience difficulty in waking Ingenuity up each day. When Perseverance eventually returned to comms range, however, the humans couldn't find the helicopter. This marked the first time in over 700 Martian days that the team had lost contact. 6 days later, and after a hopeful heartbeat a day earlier, Ingenuity greeted its human controllers and resumed operations for a few weeks. Unfortunately, she's been grounded once again since April 22. On May 19, a supernova hunter spotted a bright spot in the Pinwheel Galaxy. The next day, the Zwicky Transient Facility in California confirmed it to be a new supernova. The remnant of the stellar death will be visible for up to a month, helped by the fact that this is the largest and brightest supernova seen for close on a decade. And as I load up the overlay so you can see what I'm talking about as well, I'll press that button. You can see the Pinwheel Galaxy there and the supernova. It is the brightest supernova seen for close on a decade, as I said. Even though it just falls short of observation by the naked eye, you can catch it with a pair of high-powered binoculars or a small telescope. This is classed as a Type 2 supernova, which previous events have lasted at peak brightness for around 100 days. This one, though, seems to be different, with its ultraviolet output remaining consistently bright. James Webb or Hubble should have decades to study this one across the spectrum. Well, the oldest known examples of complex organic molecules in the universe have been found. This is exciting stuff. Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons are found in oil and coal deposits here on Earth. They're big molecules with dozens to hundreds of atoms in them, and while they're common in space, going further back in the universe yields less results, until now. Finding these molecules helps to understand key details in the life cycle of a galaxy, and the further back in the universe astronomers peered, the harder it got because of the sensitivity and number of light wavelengths able to be monitored. Enter the James Webb Space Telescope. It peered at galaxy SPT 041847, more than 12 billion light years away, dating the observations at only 1.5 billion years after the Big Bang. Press the button and it moves on. There we go. We are podcasting on YouTube and across every podcast app. Been having a couple of issues today. It's been getting there. Anyway, that's the graphic from the previous story. But that won't disturb me from telling you all about our podcasting. You can find us on Google or Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Tuned In, and more. Plus, Trekzone's channel in the iTunes library gives you a one-stop shop for all of our Trekzone goodness. So jump onto your favourite podcast app, find Trekzone and subscribe. On YouTube, membership continues to be available, early access for less than a cup of coffee per month. And of course, our social media feeds always have the week's podcast highlights and Star Trek episodes. This is our 20th year to the world, our gala live stream event on July 10 from 7:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. We are Trekzone. I am Matt Miller. Thanks for watching Talkin Science for 200 episodes. We've been going boldly since 2003.